A lot of times our best speakers are often people who don't think they could ever give a TED Talk because you're right, they're modest, they're out there changing the world, but they don't think they're anything special, and they are. And they're not self-promotional. Some of the best speakers come from our other speakers who say, I have a friend that you need to meet, or you should really know this person from the housing department or whatever. We are always telling people they should give TED Talks.
You're listening to Granite Goodness, the podcast where we interview New Hampshire people making the world a better place.
Oh, Susie, where are you going now?
My name is Andy DeMeo. This episode was sponsored by and recorded in Treeline Outfitters in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Today, I'm speaking to Anna Goldsmith and Karin Olafsson Milne. Anna and Karin are the two lead organizers for TEDx Portsmouth, one of the biggest TEDx events in the country. We talk about what makes a good TED Talk, building awesome teams with trust, our common immigrant ancestors, finding lost cats, elephants, matriarchy, the art of public speaking, and a bunch of other things on this episode of Granite Goodness. Anna and Karin, welcome to Granite Goodness.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you. All right, we're going to start.
No, it's perfect.
Okay.
You should just you're sharing a mic over there.
We're going to stand over here.
That's
I'm going to stand
perfect.
with Dan. I just feel more comfortable standing.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. This is a little bit of an experiment. The first time that we've had two guests on at the same time. I think
Wow.
it's going to go great.
We'll try not to talk over each other.
I'm trying not to talk over you right now.
You totally can. Each episode is chaos, and it's a little bit of fun. So we always like to start out. Can each of you tell me a little bit about your relationship to the state of New Hampshire? Are you from here? What do you like about it? What's unique about it? Anna and Karin and the Granite State. What's the story?
So I actually grew up in Portsmouth, and my family has lived here for generations. My great uncle was actually the youngest mayor in Portsmouth history.
Get out of town.
Nope, it's true. And we lived in Cambridge for several years, and then when our oldest son was going into kindergarten, we decided to move back here.
Yeah.
And I just love Portsmouth so much. It's, there's nowhere I'd rather be.
Did that come up when you were working with Daglin to produce TEDx, the mayoral connection?
No, you know what? It came up before that, but I've definitely brought it up with Jaglin. Then he was the police commissioner too.
Okay.
So my roots go way back.
Yeah, you've got a whole tradition of civic duty.
I do.
In
Yes.
your blood here.
Yep.
Okay. Can you top that? Tell us about your...
I don't think I can top it. All my grandparents were immigrants from Sweden, Norway, and Italy, and they met in New York City. So my roots are actually, from Western Europe and New York. But I moved here when I was 2. So for me, New Hampshire has always been my life. I grew up in Barrington, New Hampshire. My husband and I both went to St. Thomas Aquinas in the same class. I love this area so deeply. It's got, peaceful forests. It's a just right sized community, especially here in Portsmouth, but even statewide, where you can follow what you're passionate about and find other people who are interested and willing to help you get there. It's a very strong community, and I don't see myself ever leaving here. And it's really... It's been really special working for TED because I get exposed to all sorts of people I never would have met through my everyday life. And I get to meet hundreds of people literally every year who have big ideas that they think it's really important for the world to know because they might be able to impact positive change. So,
just to add on to what Karin said, one of the things I love the most about living in New Hampshire and Portsmouth in particular is that if you want to get involved in something, there are opportunities to do that. There aren't as many barriers. That's how I got involved with TED. I just wanted to do some volunteer work. I heard about a TED, and 5 years later, I'm running it. So those things happen all the time. Just like you wanted to set up something where young people could get more involved with business leaders. So you started Tend to Watch. I mean, that's a good example of seeing something and being able to take action in the way that you can't necessarily do in a larger city.
Right.
Yeah, and speaking about that actually very well illustrates the concept that I'm talking about. As a slightly older person, helping mentor the young catapult people and then bridging the gap between them and leadership Seacoast was a really wonderful way to expand community for all three ages, really. And we have even getting involved with TEDx Portsmouth. I only got involved because I was at a party for a kids camp in the region that I worked at, and one of the other moms said, "Wow, you would really love to be involved in TED. Join me on the committee."
Yeah.
And I just jumped on, not knowing what I was going into, and within the year, I just absolutely fell in love with the people, the way that the organization works, and the big ideas that we share.
True.
I love it. I do have to comment, Karen.
Am I talking too fast?
No, you're perfect. My family is, I've never heard anyone else say that. My ancestors are immigrants to America from Sweden, Norway, and Italy.
Wow.
No way.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not
Oh
even
my God.
kidding.
That's kind of crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
What's your last name again? How do you pronounce it?
Well, my last name is Milne, but that's
Yeah.
my husband's name.
Right.
But my maiden name is Olafsson, so it's
Yeah, Olafsson,
son of
right,
Olaf,
yeah.
right? So it's Swedish, yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
We could dig into that later.
We'll have to do that
We could be
afterwards.
distant. Like, what are the chances?
We probably are. We're all related.
The
It's the melting
exact
pot.
demographic well, that's the fun of it, right? It's like everyone has a story. You know, I was, one of the things I like to talk about on here with people is, you know, New Hampshire is great, but right, like, what is the role that it plays in America and making, you know, the United States unique and a special place? And, you know, Daglin told this wonderful story of, you know, when they do the swearing in of citizens here in Portsmouth, you know, and it's like, he said, you'll never feel more patriotic than when you go there and, you know, you see people of all different, you know, colors and creeds and ethnic or national backgrounds come and become American citizens. And we get to experience that right here in Portsmouth.
Absolutely. And I think it's kind of interesting with Anna being, you know, generations in this region and me coming from, you know, people who left Europe after World War II to come
Yeah.
here. You know, I still have this strong feeling from my grandparents about the different cultures they came from and how those traditions and ways of seeing the world blend very well with things that are happening here. And Anna would have a different background, but our differences actually make us stronger. We each add something different, not only just culturally from our backgrounds, but even in working together, our differing perspectives are part of what makes helping curate this event successful each year.
Wait, tell him your engine. What was your engine? That's so. Karen has a really funny analogy for how we work together. Wait, you're the engine. No, I'm the engine and you're the brakes, right?
You're not just an engine. Anna, you're the freight train.
I'm the freight train.
And I am the brake.
Okay.
Anna is like, let's go. And she's like off and running, like, and she's got a big idea and she wants to do all these things. And I'm like, all right, let's slow down and let me take the time to make sure that I lay the tracks before you get too far ahead.
Yeah.
And together with that inspirational drive and then, you know, the logical, let's put the pieces in place first. Not to mention, the members of our team are like extensions of this. We're kind of like a Lego set where we just aren't sure what we're building. We get all these pieces and everyone brings something special to the table. And in the end, by being flexible and letting everyone be themselves and contribute what they're best at, the event ends up more than we ever could have expected it would be.
Yeah, and that's really important to us because it's a volunteer-run event. So, you know, a few people get just stipends for some tech stuff they do or some back-end things, but for the most part, it's all volunteer. And so we really want to pick people out of the community who are already great at doing what they do,
Right.
and then just let them have the freedom.
Yeah.
To do what they're good at. Like, for example, our designer, you know, our logo this year, Being Human, was one of my absolute favorite logos we've ever had.
It was pretty cool.
And that was, you know, Katinka, she just came up with it. I saw it and I'm like, yep, that's the one. And it's really nice. I think we really appreciate the fact that we don't have to micromanage everyone.
Yeah. Right.
We don't have time for that. So, yeah.
It is a 900-person event.
It is.
And most events of this size, you know, you have a whole team of people actually working on it. But I think the fact that this is a volunteer organization makes it stronger because it ensures that the people who are here because they love and value the mission of TED, which is to spread big ideas. And these people aren't here to fill their time. There's some volunteer roles where like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Let me get a volunteer gig, which there's nothing wrong with that. But these are people who are super busy and successful on their own, and they say, I'm gonna make the time because this is so important to me.
That's actually pretty funny because, both of you, shared briefly the stories of how you got involved in TED, and it seemed like it was a little bit of an accident for both of you. And like what a contrast, and you're saying, no, when people get involved, it's quite intentional and they're very serious about it. But
things have changed a lot since I took over. The woman who ran it before me, I don't know, do you know Crystal Parody? What's her married name? Crystal Parody something.
Crystal Parody.
Anyway, she's a force. She's amazing. She started TED in Portsmouth, and it was in a little church. Then it got really popular, and then it moved to 3S. And then I came in just because I wanted to be a part of it, and I realized they didn't have any speaker coaches, and I'm a professional writer. So the first person I worked with was federal court judge Tina Nato. And she was amazing to work with, and I was like, I love this speaker coaching. So that was my plan, was just to be a speaker coach. And I ended up going to an event with Crystal, and unintentionally got qualified to be a curator, which I would find out later that was a bad thing. And then we sold out the music hall we sold out 3S really fast, and the only feedback we got was, you guys need a bigger space. So I said to Crystal, we need to move to the music hall. So we moved to the music hall, but Crystal was still trying to do everything herself, and it broke her. So she's like, I'm leaving. And
I need a little help.
And I'm like, you're the only one who can take over. And I was like,
yeah, right. Yeah, you can do it.
Oh no. But when I took over, I run a company, I have 2 kids, and I said, we cannot do this unless we have a big team to help. So I got a co-producer, and then we built out this team, and it's an amazing team where everyone knows what they're doing, and people love this team. We have so much fun together. We do social things, and but it's not a one-woman show anymore.
No, and it is an interesting thing. I was going through the program with my mom, and it is a cool thing. You go through it, and you're like, oh, look at the team. I don't know that I saw a single guy.
Yeah.
Like it's like pretty much all
We're
women.
working on that.
No, that's. We're like, how often is that ever the case? Like usually it's the opposite, where it's like.
So.
And you know what's so funny is we got some negative comments from people saying, how come you had all boys up there for the 14 words from 8 words from 8 eighth graders? And it's like, did you happen to notice that the entire team is female? And that was kind of done on purpose. Like, we need to kind of balance this out a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think if we were an all-male team, I'm sure we get a lot of trash for it. But we don't at all. But we would love to add more people to the team. So it was kind of unintentional how that happened.
I have found,
I think that's great.
Volunteering in this area for 15, 18 years or something, that like it or not, the reality is that most of the people who volunteer in this area, I would say it's at least 80% are women. Boards of trustees, but small organizations, nonprofits tend to have more women in them. And let me tell you, the women are doing some amazing things in this area too. If you look at, business leaders and nonprofits and just, people that want to make the world better, both sexes obviously play a role. But I have found personally in this market that the people who are doing a lot of this behind the scenes work tend to be women.
It's like that quote, if you want to get something done, ask a busy person to do it. And I feel like moms are particularly busy.
Right.
We're like, okay, I've got an hour, let's get to it. Let's get down to business.
Exactly. Well, I feel like they know what it means to get something done rather than just like take credit for it or fail upwards. But no, I think that's great, and there's like, well, let's just say this. I've worked in a lot of kitchens. I've told this story before on here, but kitchens, particularly line kitchens and restaurants, like they tend to be a lot of guys. Like it's a very masculine environment. And one kitchen I worked in, it was all women except for me. And it was like the best run kitchen. Like I don't know what it was about it, where there's like the matriarchy was just pumping on all cylinders, or just a better environment. Like, I don't know, but it worked really, really well. It's very efficient.
That's a really big factor for us, is that we spend a lot of time together as volunteers. We really, really want to like and trust our volunteers. And we feel the same way about our speakers.
Right.
We get about 175 applications a year. We pick 10 people. And personality plays a big role in it. We want people that are really passionate about an idea, not just trying to shill a product.
Yeah.
And then people we like because we work with them
Yeah,
a lot.
right. Exactly.
So that's so important to us, you know?
And you said work in there, and that is a really key element of this. You know, Anna and I are here sort of providing some structure for them to work off of, you know, speaker coaching and just a strong organization and production. But the people who come to speak have to be committed to not only having a great idea, but being open to other people's feedback. We have countless meetings over a 3-month period where each accepted speaker comes to learn,
Right.
to listen, and to make their idea even better than it was when they arrived. We start with a boot camp at the beginning of the year, which really gets people on the same page and understanding what it takes to give a TED Talk.
Yeah.
And from that moment forward, even our TED speaker team as a unit, they connect with each other and they learn and grow and get good ideas. So it's this micro community of people that are probably all perfect for your podcast, to be honest with you, because they're doing
Selfishly.
good things, but
Yeah.
they're willing to listen too. They're not
Right.
just, this is my idea and I want to put it forth. They say, I want to put this idea forth within the context of this community
Yeah.
to the broader community, so then they can take it to the world. I mean,
Right.
TED is really, we're a small stage
Yeah.
in a small market of 25,000 people, but our messages literally go worldwide every year.
We do. I
Yeah.
mean, we're it's hard to brag about yourself, but I'll brag about
No,
our
this is the
organization,
place to
right?
do it.
Our event is considered like a one-to-watch event, and TEDx, the curation team, always takes a close look at the Portsmouth speakers because we're known for producing really high-quality talks.
Wow.
And every year, about 1% of talks get picked up to be put on the TED site, and that's
Yeah.
where the numbers really start taking up.
Right.
And each year we get at least 20% of our speakers,
Wow.
sometimes 30%, and some of our speakers have had 1 million views.
Whoa.
So it's one of the top 50 events in the whole world, and there's 3,500 events.
Oh my gosh.
So we've really built something pretty amazing here for a little town. And I went to a TED Global event this past fall, and I became known as the person who sold out her event in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And this year we sold it out in 25 minutes. So I'm looking forward to that.
You could say, the people ask you, do you know the woman who sold out the event in 2 hours? You say, no, I don't know her. She's a different lady. You must have me confused, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'll say part of the reason why we are able to sell out so quickly, in part, is because of the community is just really so special here in New Hampshire as a state,
Yeah.
in the Seacoast as a smaller subset of that, but. I'm a total organizational development nerd, and if you look at how we work, COVID has certainly helped us along, but where a lot of organizations will sit down and have group meetings and everyone needs a chance to speak and people are waiting a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Oh, is it my turn? I had to go to that whole meeting and I was only relevant for 2 minutes. We eliminated all of that. When Anna and I, formed as a team, we said, and in part because of COVID, we said, let's just meet with people 1 or 2 at a time, the most relevant people at the moment, to get the work done so we can really focus and respect their time. And when we do get together as a group, rather than making it a formal meeting, we make it a social event at which people have the opportunity to talk with other people on the team. And those more casual moments tend to give rise to better ideas on how to run our organization and build the connections amongst us. So our team, I can't see anyone leaving. I'd be very sad if they did, but we're a really wonderful group of people that works in a healthy manner together.
We really love our team.
Yeah.
So.
Well, when you invest in, the synergy, that's another, you don't know it, but that is a good recurring theme of this show that other people have touched on. So your perfect fit is, there's all these big problems, right? And certainly getting interesting, compelling problem solving people to get up and share those ideas, right? That's its own problem, the marketing and communication of how do we solve some of the complex stuff we're dealing with, right? In terms of other problems that have been tackled on this show, getting municipal sustainability projects off the ground, like let's get more, renewables working, or let's try and get more housing built, right? The recurring theme that's come up again and again and again is that investing in exactly what you're talking about, the networking, kind of the synergy, getting people interacting in ways that they don't traditionally interact, right? Whether they're city planners or, different folks interacting at levels in municipal government or in different cities or, whatever you want to do, it really, really matters to invest in the human element.
We humanize it.
We do.
I mean, really.
Yeah, and I
Being
mean
human.
that's a huge part of TED. It's not just getting up there and sharing an idea. It's getting up there and sharing an idea and then giving people a call to action.
Right.
And you'll notice at the end of talks, it's often, so when you leave here today, I want you to go X, Y, and Z. And that's really intentional.
Yeah.
And our favorite ideas are ideas exactly like the food truck
Right.
that you mentioned
Yep.
that can be replicated around the country, because that's what we want to do. We want to inspire change.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things I love about working on TED is it's just an excuse to meet the most interesting people. Like if you say you work for TEDx, people will talk to you because
Yeah.
everyone secretly wants to give a TED talk. And one thing I want to say to your audience is people think that because you're speaking in front of a huge audience, you have to have a public speaking background or experience, and you absolutely don't. We have a performance coach who works with our speakers for about a month to get everyone really ready and comfortable on stage. So I think that's really important.
Mom,
no
are you
experience
listening
necessary.
to this?
We just want great ideas. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah. A question I would have for you related to that, and this is kind of in the vein of like the feminist thread we were going down, which I love. Like something that I enjoy about doing this show is that oftentimes some of the most virtuous people who are working on really hard stuff, out of passion or their values or whatnot, or out of a commitment to service or serving the public good, they are not naturally self-promoting, right? Like they are not naturally the sort of person who would seek credit or acclaim for doing something, really, really cool and virtuous, right? And it's fun for me to find those people and say, hey, here's an opportunity to promote what you're doing, right? And it's like you kind of get the hack in their head of, okay, it's not selfish if I do this, it can serve the work I'm doing, blah, 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 and I can get all kinds of people, right? So do you ever find that there's a similar dynamic? Like, do you find that have you ever run into someone and said, man, have you ever considered giving a TED Talk?
I say that to people all the time. Yeah. And a lot of times our best speakers, our favorite speakers, in fact, are often people who don't think they could ever give a TED Talk.
Right.
Because you're right. They're modest. They're out there changing the world, but they don't think they're anything special.
Yeah.
And they are. But they're not self-promotional. Some of the best speakers come from our other speakers who say, I have a friend that you need to meet, or you should really know this person from the housing department or whatever. And so we are always telling people they should give TED Talks if they should.
Yeah.
Or if they shouldn't give a TED Talk. That's a terrible idea.
Right.
And it really is that there is a key here about the activation piece that Anna was talking about. People who come to see a TED event they have a high expectation because they're people like the ones you're talking about. They're virtuous people who want to do good for their community for a variety of reasons. They may be working for free or they may be working for a powerful company, but that feeling of giving back and doing something meaningful is something that they feel they can feed or fill when they come to our events.
Right.
So we like to make sure that we are serving their needs. You have 900 people in a room, and these are the hand raisers, these are the thought leaders, the business leaders, the nonprofit leaders, the government leaders, the family leaders. I mean, they were all people who want to go and do. And for us to give them access to people that are doing interesting things that they say, you know what, if you want to help, our speakers get so many calls. Yeah. And do you know who is calling us a lot more that I love? Is our school systems. At Portsmouth High School this year, they had a small auditorium rented for one of the grades to watch all of our talks and learn. My children had gone to a private school. They use TED Talks regularly as teaching tools. The middle school librarians have been taking kids to, as a treat for their 8th grade to our event for years. And they use it as a learning experience and a different kind of learning, because not everybody learns the same way with the textbooks, but they can see that what's in textbooks can be outdated, but the people who are doing it on the ground have the passion to really connect with young minds and help shape them for a better future, I think.
Yeah. And one of the things that's really exciting, speaking of community, is the way that our speakers inspire community action. So, for example, there's a really great program to help end childhood hunger called End 68 Hours of Hunger. I don't know if you've heard
It
of
was
that.
last year, wasn't it?
That was last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She said, we can all end this right now.
Yes.
I remember what she said.
Well, what was really exciting for us to hear is how many neighborhoods after that event got together and did food drives and volunteered. And that just, I mean, I got goosebumps just telling you that. Like, that's why we do this. It
Yeah.
feels so good to actually help make positive change in the community. I know that sounds a little cheesy, but
No, it's not.
it keeps us going. It feels like important work.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah.
And it's not just Anna
Super
and I by
important
any
work.
stretch. I mean, we have a team of, 14 to 16 people that work year round on this event, plus
Yeah.
people who show up the day of. And it goes back to that individual sort of a personal vocation. What are you good at? Like, I'm into organizational development, and I say, I could volunteer at a soup kitchen. I could do a lot of hands-on giving. But if I'm involved in TED, all of a sudden, or other nonprofits, I can use my skills to make exponential impacts for them, right? And so I think other people, whether they're in marketing or design or, any of the roles that we have at TED, managing the event itself, they're able to make a huge impact in the world through this one small channel. And I have to also say that the TED brand is certainly a wonderful halo to have around us. A lot of people respect it, so it's easy to bring people in. They understand it. But once they're here, we're all getting that feeling of giving back. So we do get something out of it.
I'm going to give a little plug to Karen. Oh my God, did I just call you Karen? I did that on stage.
Talk about Karen Lyons.
Karen Lyons. I'll talk about her later.
Wait,
no, I was going to say
this
something
is
about
a
Karen.
different Karen, or
We have
our
another
Karen?
Karen on our team, and Karen has single-handedly, revolutionized our marketing. We basically didn't have a marketing department before Karen. So then once Karen came in and did all of the organizational work on the back end to allow these channels to exist, Karen came in and started sort of doing social posting and just getting us out into the community. And that was the year that the numbers just exploded.
Yeah.
And one thing that Karen is really good at, and I've wanted Karen on the team. I think I wanted you on the team 3 years before you agreed to do it. Karen is really good at going into an organization and seeing where the sticking points are. It's okay, this right here is preventing your growth. And she's really good at going in and figuring out how to reorganize things so that you can continue to grow without taxing your current employees or your volunteers. And that's what we needed. We were kind of at a point where we didn't know how to grow anymore. And then when Karen came in, that's when we got Karen. That's when there were these other roles that were created. And it's a really pretty amazing skill. One, I don't have myself, so.
But I would say that
You bring lots, Anna.
See, this is the freight train. Anna's like, we can't lose any of these people. And I'm like, okay, the freight train going ahead, how do we keep all these people? It's not just by being good friends. It's helping them feel fulfilled. Yeah. And when people who are busy moms and business leaders or parents of any sort, or they're involved in a lot of things, you have to make it easy for them to give. If we want to keep them on our team, we have to respect their time. We have to make it easy for them to give us their top skills, their top effort. And I think that some of these simple changes on the back end, now they're kind of running on their own. I honestly don't know how much work I have to do anymore because our team is absolutely phenomenal, top to bottom. I think everyone, I would love to list everybody, but if you go to our website, TEDxportsmouth.com, look at our team, and every person on there, I stand behind the quality of their work. They're phenomenal.
Yeah. Because we have had some people on our team that have started and then drifted away, and that's fine. It just wasn't a good fit. But we're at a point now where it's a pretty solid team. But things will come up, and there'll be other people that will come on and other people that will leave, and we're ready. We're ready for that.
Right. I really like that story because I was listening once to an interview from, I don't remember his name, but one of the founders of TED. And he was talking about how funny it is now, even the phrase TED Talk has entered our kind of common parlance. And even the organization itself, the story I heard one of the founders tell was that at the time, early in their life and history, this idea that they would get all these people together, record these talks, and then give them all away for free, put them on the internet, and distribute them for free to anybody in the world. This was a radical and very controversial decision that they made in the organization, which ended up being, if that hadn't happened, we wouldn't all be here today. Now we can't imagine TED behind closed doors, secret, like it's synonymous with these videos being free for everyone everywhere on the internet. And like, it ended up being the greatest thing they ever did, but it was not an intuitive choice, right? You know, and it's exactly like, here you are, someone who joined, you know, a TED organization, came on board and said, you know, Anna, I mean, no shade to the train method of the train method of management, right? But, you know, for you to come in and be like, you know, I think we might actually grow more and get more out of these people if, you know, I don't know, we lower our expectations for what they can give in terms of time and commitment or whatever, right? Like whatever the actual thing was, maybe to you, Anna, it was a counterintuitive suggestion, but that idea, as near as I can tell, is like built into the entire, like that's what TED is. That's what TED is. It's solving things in the way that you don't expect. And
it is really funny. I mean, TED really is in the public consciousness. I went to a Creative Mornings talk a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, I don't remember, and the speaker was getting into her talk and she said, now I'm not going to give a TED talk, so I'm not going to tell you 3 things I want you to do. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so funny. Everyone knows what TED Talks are. And there's a lot of jokes about like the red dot, and you hear it. It's so funny. You hear it referenced in movies and TV shows. Which is a sign of a success, right? Like what a great sign that it's become a part of our culture. And it's a really cool thing. There were really 3 big moments. I mean, the first big moment was when TED came into existence, and it was a behind the doors, you know, invitation only elite conference. And then Chris Anderson took over. That's the guy. And it was online. And then the next big step, which happened about, I don't know, 15 years ago, was when they licensed the brand and created TEDx. And now there's 3,500 events all over the world. And the best ones make it up to TED, so it becomes kind of a feeder for the TED channel for content. And there's a lot of rules you have to follow, but yeah, so you're right. It's out there. There's so many events. Well, they built a special brand that appeals to everybody, you know.
But it's also funny. I think it's funny sometimes because we see applications, so many applications, and we read every one of them. Our whole team has input. We invite other people from the community, men and women, to sort of vet, making sure that's out there. We invite people and whose opinion we trust or who we don't know and just wanted to come and help us choose who's going to be on stage. We want a varied group of people, so it's not the same group of people choosing who gets to be on stage and who doesn't. But it always surprises me how many, there's a portion of our talks that simply aren't TED Talks. Everyone thinks they know what a TED Talk is. Maybe it's a feeling they get from it. A lot of people think that a TED Talk is really a story, maybe a personal recounting. And I really believe this is where Anna has taken this organization to, you know, one of the top 50 out of the 3,500, because she's an excellent writer and has been doing this a long time, understands the mechanics of a TED Talk and the emotions and how someone feels when listening to it. Just like our day, it's more like a playlist than it is, one-off kind of thing. A lecture, Right. So when people come in, we can see what a good idea is, and we can say, oh, you're telling it more like a story, and we ask them questions, and we start to draw out, and we really see the richness in some people, like there's some people who show up ready to go. Laura Clemenson this year, she came to our auditions in a room of like 30 people, and as soon as she left, everyone in the room raised their hand and said we want her on the stage. She's a death doula who started the Pre-Dead Social Club, and her talk was so phenomenal. She understood how to deliver it. She was passionate. She knew she had it right down pat. But not everyone's like that. The people that don't have that off the bat, you have Anna and a team of like 6 speaker coaches to help you get there. I just had to tell a quick Laura story. She had it, and her talk was great, and it was totally locked. I said, Laura, your talk is perfect. It's done. And then she came to rehearsal like 2 weeks later, and she completely rewritten her whole talk. I almost had a heart attack. I was so upset that she changed this perfect talk, and we worked through it. But I think that's what happens to some speakers, is that they overthink it. And what really, another major thing that happens is they work on their talk for so long, they start to think their talk is boring, so they rewrite it. It's like, no, it's not boring. And I always say that to them on the dress rehearsal. I say, you're going to give your talk, and then you're going to feel this horrible feeling like, why did I ever think this was a good idea? This is terrible. Nobody's going to like it. And I said, just because you're sick of your talk, you're going to come the next day and see how great your talk is. So that's my advice. Don't change your talk after it's perfect.
just memorize it.
Well, that's something I actually kind of wanted to dig in more, right? Is the journey that you get to see people on, right? Like whether they come in fully prepared, or is that a journey that you see people go on, where they come in and they either have an idea or you encourage them to submit an idea, and you get to see their process of, becoming a little more confident, becoming a little more sure of themselves to the point where they can deliver a TED Talk, one of the best in the world, right?
Yeah. And that is so exciting. And my absolute favorite part of the whole experience is sitting in the audience and watching these speakers who maybe came in not very confident, they weren't sure they had a good idea, just killing it on stage. And by that point, I know every single talk,
Right.
I know their talk almost as well as they do. And seeing them hit their marks, make the audience laugh, and just a lot of people tell us this was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was also the most rewarding.
Wow.
And that sounds like a cliche, but we work our speakers really, really hard. I mean, maybe because I'm a writer, but the drafts are as good as they can possibly be before we let them go on stage with them.
Yeah.
And sometimes they get mad that we push them so hard, but they're always grateful at the end when they have this amazing talk. They get mad at me.
And then I talked about it.
Good,
then Karin
cop,
talks
bad
them
cop.
down. It's not that she hates you; she just knows you can do better.
But so I'd like to say that to answer your question about the development, I don't want anyone to have preconceived notions about who's going to be a good TED Talker and who
of course
isn't.
not.
One of our speakers this year, Justin McKinney, he is a famous comedian. He sells out the music hall himself, let alone as just one of 11 people speaking on the stage for TED. But he is a comedian, and he talked about a very personal topic.
Yeah.
He's used to doing things a certain way, and for me and most of our team, I'd say this year, that he was the speaker who exhibited the most growth in the process, because he did have confidence. He did have stage presence. We're like, this is going to be a slam dunk, no work. But it turns out when you're trying to do something you're not used to do and speaking about things in a way that you aren't used to speaking, so much growth happens. It taxes you and it challenges you. And we didn't even see it coming, and all of a sudden we realized it. And I don't know if it's feminine or if it's a group or what, but our whole group came and was there to listen, support, give suggestions, and help him grow. And his was one of the favorite talks took down the house.
In some ways, he did. He got so much support, and it was really interesting because we did think, okay, well, Justin, he's not going to need much work,
Right?
Because he's an amazing performer. He's got great instincts, but he was trying to tell this really personal story, and every time he'd start to get into it, he'd stop and he'd tell a joke, and we're like, you got to just go for it. Just go for it.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to see him work through that, and it was amazing for him to finally get there, and he did. He really, really did.
Yeah, his was incredible.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I think we have speakers every single year who don't think they can do it and then surprise themselves. Yeah. Right? And then you have pros like our 16-year-old shark expert.
Oh my God.
She was another one where everyone just raised their hand like, yep.
Yeah, she's like, she does this every day.
Yeah, she's very impressive. But I personally love working with people who don't think they can do it and aren't used to being on stage, because they're often the most coachable, because Ted and Karin mentioned this, it's a really collaborative process. And you have to want that. You're not going to have total control of your talk.
Right.
5 different people are going to read it. You're going to get a lot of feedback and help shaping it. And we want to work with people who want that.
Right.
And ultimately, we do also honor the fact that ultimately these ideas and these people, although they're part of our event, their TED Talk is very personal, and it will be part of their brand. It's part of their life history.
Right.
So in the end, when they produce something really phenomenal, I mean, they can be proud of what they had. They take our feedback, but ultimately they make the final decisions.
I'm not a public speaker, but I took a class once, and this is something that I've heard from people who do like public speaking professionally. Not a coach though. I've never met a coach like you, Anna. I've heard that, standard advice is to, not focus on, like a script, like word for word what you're going to say, because that can throw people off. And instead, talk like you're having a conversation. Don't talk to 1,000 people, just talk to one person, right? Make it personal, know your thing well enough so that you can speak off the cuff, like you'd be talking to a friend or something. Those are some of what I understand to be the traditional ingredients for like good public speaking, but TED is not that, right? It's
I have
a
so
script.
much to say about this.
Yeah, that's tell me how wrong that is.
If you're giving a talk that's just a regular talk, say you're going to speak to the Chamber of Commerce, it's okay if you go 5 or 10 minutes over. It's okay if you deviate and tell the story that you just thought of. TED is it's a performance.
Right.
It's almost more like a play where it's a really tightly scripted piece of work, right? And for years, I had people memorize it, and we always said, you want to be happy birthday memorized. I mean, somebody can be like, a saber-toothed tiger can be chasing you and you can still sing happy birthday. But just recently, we, along with the TED conference themselves, have changed our opinion about memorization. And now it's the idea that you want to know your talk, not memorize it. So that's been a recent change for us, and I think the talks have gotten better as a result.
Yeah.
But people really aren't deviating that much from what they wrote because they practice it so much. They really know it.
Right.
But what we want is probably what your instructor was saying. You don't want to you don't want to have somebody, drop a can in the audience, lose your train of thought, and then not be able to get back to it.
Yeah.
So now we say, just know your talk,
right,
but don't memorize it.
Yeah.
Unless you feel comfortable. Like somebody who has a theater background might feel more comfortable memorizing their talk, and we're fine with that as long as it sounds natural.
Right.
But people practice it so much, it really does, I think.
It's very similar.
I never thought about it like that. Like, sometimes you'll hear actors in modern movies talk about, oh yeah, we went off script and we did that bit, but you don't really hear people going off script when they're doing like Shakespeare, right? Like we would all think that would be strange,
right,
to improvise lines in a Shakespeare play. Like you wouldn't do that.
And they're short. They're supposed to be 18 minutes or less. There's a little bit of wiggle room there, but they're short talks. So you really can't deviate too much.
Right.
I mean, you can change a word or a sentence, but fundamentally you have to know where you're going and go there.
Yeah.
And because the talks are really, it's not, I'm not going to say it's a formula or a structure, which I guess I did just say it, but the talks
They're a journey.
They're similar in format in general, right?
Yeah.
So where we are able to deviate and to expand our community, since this is about, good things happening in New Hampshire, we bring in so many people, as many people, talented people as we can, as interstitials or entertainers. We had 60 women on the stage a couple years ago.
Wow.
Singing a song from The Greatest Showman.
Yeah. What were they?
Was it This Is Me?
Was it This Is Me?
Whoa,
Yes.
whoa, whoa.
It was
Love that song.
goosebumps, and they're talented people who come in and give different bits of information. So each year we're kind of, anyone who's listening here who has something really creative or interesting. This year we had someone do I don't even know how to describe the Seacoast rep.
Oh yeah,
performance.
the World of Pure Imagination guy.
Yes.
That was crazy.
What was that? It was so cool.
Yeah, it was something different. And we honestly weren't even sure what to expect when he came in, but a lot of people brought that up as something that was fascinating and unexpected, because part of creating this event is also bringing in more of the community. And we know that not everybody wants to do a TED Talk, but there are people who are big thinkers or creative in other ways or have something else to share that serve as a palate cleanse for our people. Yeah. I always think of TED as being like going to a museum and just that sort of overstimulation sometimes.
Yeah.
You need a chance to take a water break, to take a breath and think in a different way rather than just learning and being inspired. You just need to enjoy as well.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that. So it's been my dream for a long time to have aerial dancers. So I could not believe that we got aerial dancers this year. I was so excited. So for your audience, we're really looking for some interesting ideas because we feel like, how can we top that amazing painter and the aerial dancer? So we're looking for interesting new ideas beyond just singing, right? Like singing is great, and we always love having music, but what else can we do that would be amazing? Like juggling, or I don't even know, something we haven't even thought of. Yeah, drummers.
I've got a crazy idea for you.
What? Tell us.
They're gonna love it. Martial arts, like fight choreography.
Oh,
like when you see like a really tight kung fu movie, like a Jackie Chan movie, you see the way they move. Like it's basically dancing. It's like a cooperative.
I think that's a really great idea.
Yeah, like real fighting is competition, right? Yeah. But a choreographed fight is about making it look cool, and you're cooperating so no one gets hurt. if
It's a
you
really
could
good
find
idea.
some
That's a
people who did that, or like I bet you know who the stunt lady who wasn't able to.
Amy Green.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she gave the virtual,
Yeah.
which was really cool. I bet she knows some people who do fight choreography.
That's a real, or maybe she even wants to do it next summer if she's
yeah,
around.
she could do it.
Yeah, she was so bummed she couldn't do a TED Talk.
I thought what she ended up doing is very graceful.
It was.
You know.
It was. Yeah. It just. Yep.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard working in Hollywood.
Right.
So, you know, it's also very tight. And we couldn't ask her to come back for a, you know, contract.
We're not allowed to say the star that she couldn't say no to, but it was a really big star that you don't say no to.
Yeah. And so she couldn't come back to the East Coast, you know, at the last moment. But
I
you know,
hope
this is
it
us
was-
respecting people and
yeah.
their needs as well. You know.
Right.
It was Jeff Goldblum, wasn't it?
Bigger than Jeff Goldblum.
There's it's nothing I wouldn't do for him.
No, I was just thinking, did we get to
I like
all the?
commercial arts.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, but really, we love getting these creative ideas because the interstitials are super important because
Yeah.
people really are they're really on like intellectual overload.
Yes.
And so you need to give them some breaks, and that's something that Karin and I spend a lot of time on that I bet a lot of the audience doesn't realize is how do the talks fit together?
Yeah.
Which talk goes in which session? Which talk comes after which? We spend a lot of time thinking about that. It's very designed.
I would say that the way that I like to think about it, I think both of us think about it, is we grew up with cassette tapes, and when someone made you a mixtape that you just couldn't, now it's a playlist maybe, but you know, you put it in, you're like, wow, and you're instantly hooked. And then you just keep listening and you're along for the ride. We want people to feel that way through our day.
Right.
And, you
That's
know,
a great analogy.
and Anna will be sending me lists like, what about this? And I'm like, oh my God, that's the best list. And then you know, someone else throws in a different suggestion, and there are a handful of us that are involved in that
I love
process.
it.
but,
It's one of our favorite. It's one of our favorite things. I really like matchmaking. So when I got married, I thought a lot about who was sitting at the table and like what single person was sitting next to which single person. And I always kind of think about that when we're curating the TED stage. What's really cool too is that talks will talk to each other. You know, so Ben did the food waste talk and Caitlin did the food truck talk.
Yeah.
And not only did those talks like build on each other, but you know, those two can work together.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Ben can help supply Caitlin's food truck. And things like that happen all the time in really unexpected, interesting ways.
Well, there's a lot to be said for, you know, curating a space, but like it's not just. I mean, this whole interview is proof that there's a lot more to it than saying, "Hey, here's a time and a place. Show up. There's TED Talks." Like nothing about it is an accident. Like a mixtape.
But you know what? A lot of events are like that.
Oh.
Where they'll just you don't. We take our event really seriously, and that's because we're proud of it, and we do run people through a lot of, you know, we make them jump through a lot of hoops just to apply. They have to go to boot camp.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that we expect them to do, and then the talks are great. But other TED events just say, okay, we're going to pick the speakers, we're going to tell them when to show up, and that's what they get.
Anything goes.
You know?
Yeah.
But I think that's also part of the work that we put people through gives us unique ideas. We aren't just calling people who are like, oh, there's a prominent person. Let's hear what they have to say. I bet they'd be good. We really try to dig deeper and find the people that others might have missed who have big ideas. It's like trying to listen to the quiet person in the room.
Yes.
You know, we want to draw those people out. And the reality is that our stage is the same size that Greta Thunberg started on. I mean, anyone from here in Portsmouth can.
Brene Brown,
Yeah.
Simon Sinek, they all got their start. And really, Simon Sinek gave a talk in Washington State on a tiny stage with pretty bad sound quality for his first talk.
Was it Find Your Why? Was that?
It was Find Your Why. And
that's
if you
like
watch
the greatest of all time.
It's a great talk.
Yeah.
But so that can happen. I mean, those TED Talks can launch careers, and it doesn't matter whether you're on the TEDx Portsmouth stage or, you know, TEDx Manhattan. It's all about the quality. So we like that.
We talk about Stephen Giannotti every day in my house, the elephant guy.
Steven's wonderful, yeah.
His talk was just so great and different, and I don't know, like, listen, they're all amazing. They're all amazing, but I think probably more about like how elephants and matriarchal systems and all these things, like he just really was passionate about it, and he introduced like he got up there and he had recordings from the savannah and stuff. Yeah. I was like, no one else is doing that. That was crazy. Yeah. So yeah, you never know. Like I've never talked to Stephen personally, but he probably, I hope that would make him happy to be like, oh yeah, this random person who attended my
that he
talk
would live for that.
2 years
He would
ago.
love to be a guest
Yes.
on your show.
I'd love
And
to have him.
Stephen,
Yeah.
Stephen worked so hard, and we going last at TEDx
Yeah,
Portsmouth
it's
is
hard.
an honor. That's that's the spot where we always put our favorite speaker, the person that we think is going to end on a
Right.
bang. And but poor Stephen was so nervous. Like he didn't enjoy the day at all. He was just backstage, practicing his
waiting,
talk and practicing, and it was amazing. Yeah,
I remember his talk being incredible.
Yeah, it really was.
And I've known Stephen for a long time, and he's one of those people who has he's very smart. He's very connected. He has the opportunity and the availability to him to be vulnerable. And, some of the parts of the talk he's sharing are so personal.
Yeah.
It sounds like, oh, it's a talk about elephants. Any kids in the audience were like, that was my favorite. Did you see the elephant? There's something cool about it. But his message was so much deeper. I can see why it resonated with you.
Yeah.
And people still comment on that talk just as you are today. And I think a lot of it has to do with, the character, his own personal character and his love for the elephants and his true belief in what he's talking about. I mean, he really does think that the way they live can be an example for today's world. And if just more people would take the time to stop and look and listen and pay attention, to some of these role models that are unexpected, that we might be in a better place.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm not going to make a joke about your TED organization being a matriarchal elephant herd.
It is, though.
That's wise and powerful. But maybe it is. I don't know, because it's great.
Well, I think the thing that I want to say is that we really want to encourage people to apply to speak at our event if they feel like they have something important to say, because it is a really incredible experience to be a part of this group that really believes in you for the whole year, and you come out a better writer, you come out a better speaker, and then you have, your message gets out potentially to 1 million or more people. So we're just always looking for great ideas, and our application goes live in October.
Okay.
So kind of look out for that, and definitely sign up for our newsletter on TEDxPortsmouth.com, because then you'll get updated as soon as the application goes out. Because there's part of us who are like, we've been doing this for 10 years. Are we going to run out of interesting people? We never do, but
Right.
that's so we always want to encourage people to, or send us recommendations for people that you think are interesting, or the interstitials. So
Right.
I guess that's the message I want to get out there.
Yeah. I would also highlight the people that make this happen are so far beyond Anna and I. Our team that I mentioned is insanely talented and dedicated, but the other people that are dedicated and come back year after year are our sponsors. Kennebunk Savings Bank is really a transformational sponsor for us. They've been with us for several years. I have some of the other sponsors. They just have contributed a larger amount because they can. This is
Right.
their whole mission, right? Another organization that's doing good.
Yeah.
Every one of our sponsors believes in what we're doing, and because we're a volunteer organization, that's how we survive.
Right.
And many of those people, although they can't have any input into the content of the day, who gets put on the stage, that's against TED rules. But they do come to the event, and their enthusiasm about what we're doing is part of what makes the whole crowd experience at TED so joyful, interesting, like connective. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Kennebunk's amazing, and they'll say to us, like, what do you want to do this year? How can we help you?
That's what you want to hear, yeah.
There was something there was something we wanted to do this year. I don't remember what it was, but we needed more money, and we just went to them, and they said, absolutely, we'll support you. And we couldn't ask for a better partner. And they've actually built a whole leadership, a component of this leadership training they do around TED, where their team comes to TED as part of this leadership group, which is really, really neat. And a lot of businesses do that. In local businesses, they do professional development, and they take their team to TED, which we really love.
Yeah, it can be way more interesting and connective than your standard retreat or something, because it's what we talked about a little while ago about how in an informal setting people connect in ways that they might not normally.
Yeah.
Their guards are down, they're more personal, and all of a sudden they're being innovative and enthusiastic without even trying. It just happens naturally in this environment. So,
wait, I want to say one more thing. I am looking for animal talks this year.
Okay.
Okay. So anyone who has a really good animal talk should definitely consider applying. I'm also looking for the mushrooms are really hot right now, so something around like psilocybin mushrooms, that kind of a talk. but particularly animals.
Yeah.
If you have an animal talk, you're so much more likely to get on TED.com because they love animal talks.
All right, I know this. I know two freaky people for both of those categories. All right, well, I always like to ask people, tell me what makes you optimistic about the future of your work.
But you're an optimistic person. What are you optimistic
I'm
about?
absolutely optimistic. I just believe in the goodness of people. And I think that the more that we stop and pay attention to each other and give people that space we were talking about to let that goodness come out, like us giving, trying to make sure that our volunteers have the freedom and the time and the support to do what they do best. I think that the goodness is there in all the people.
Yeah.
That are in this community and beyond in our world or whatnot. But if they have the right environment, that's when that goodness comes out. So that makes me optimistic because it's there. It's just waiting for us to find the right way to access it.
Right.
I have a really good one that I thought of.
This is a safe space to share.
Okay, so
we're curating the environment for you to be your best self right now.
So for whatever reason, there's been a lot of like lost cats in our neighborhood, and you see these really heartbreaking lost cat signs. And I was out for a walk the other night, and I saw this black cat, and I knew there was a black cat missing. So I called the number and said, I saw this black cat. I'm not sure if it's yours. And it wasn't their cat, but she said, so many people have called us with cat sightings. And it just made me really happy that people are out there.
Yeah.
Just that's what I love about our community. People are just looking out for each other. And each other's cats. So I think that's really nice.
Yeah, each other and the cats. Well,
no, that's really stupid.
No, I was just thinking like.
no, it's not stupid. I think it's a
nice,
great
though.
example.
It's such a nice community. Well, and there's a cat in our neighborhood that has a crooked tail, and he went missing too. And so many people in our neighborhood went out looking for this cat.
Wow.
And we were really upset about this. And then the cat was found, and everyone was happy again. But there's just something special about the neighborhoods around here that you don't see.
That's a perfect example. Like the example you just gave is what you said, Karen, applied, right? Yeah. This idea, you said, there's so much goodness, but I don't know that we channel it optimally, right? TED is one great way where we can channel a lot of that really good, smart, positive problem-solving energy. And what is your story, Anna, if not there's an abundance of people who are not okay with the idea of a lost cat, and given the one little channel they have, call a number to, put all that energy into, sounds like they broke the phones.
Well, it's taking action, right? That's what it's all about, is taking action. Yeah. So.
Well, thank you both so much for coming on.
This was fun. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
I'd love to have you on again. So this could be a thing. It'd be really fun.
That'd be great. We'd love that.
Even closer to if I can squeeze in your schedule.
That could be really fun.
Hey there. Thanks for spending some time with us, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation. You can learn more about today's guest and how to get involved with or support their work in the show notes. If you'd like to suggest a guest for the show or have any story tips for our Good News in New Hampshire newsletter, shoot me a message at hello@granitegoodness.com. Music for this episode was provided by the band Sneaky Miles, who hail from Newmarket, New Hampshire. Recording space was provided by Treeline Outfitters in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Until next time, I'm the creator of Granite Goodness and the host of the Granite Goodness podcast, Andy DeMeo. Thanks for listening.